You're watching Sci-Fi Saturday. Discussion and analysis of all your favorite sci-fi TV shows. Only on the Anthony James YouTube channel. Hello, and welcome back to our Star Trek Discovery breakdown and review. I am here with my friend, Emmett. How are you, Emmett?
I'm doing all right, Anthony. I'm in my new sort of library area to establish my nerd cred a bit more. You know?
It's actually looking lovely. I love the little setup you've got. It's a shame that I can't stay on the wide shot of you the whole time.
Yeah, no. Again, it would be a little bit jarring if it was like a close-up shot of you and then just like I'm a mile away and you can just see this bookcase. You know.
Well, yeah, like it would be a bit jarring, but you know, at the same time, the backdrop would look lovely.
Oh, it would be gorgeous, you know?
Yeah, it would, yeah. All right, guys, so can you make sure, before we start, can you subscribe to the channel? Every single Saturday, Emmett and I are here on our Sci-Fi Saturday. We are doing Star Trek Discovery breakdowns, and then I also do Mandalorian breakdowns every Saturday as well, sci-fi if that's what you're into. If you're really, really into sci-fi, hard sci-fi, the Expanse reviews and things are going to be coming later on in the year whenever that Season 5 comes out. I do video essays every now and then, but up until that point, until it comes out, I'll be trying to do. I'm not going to do any theory videos for the Expanse because it's already books. So if I make theories and I accidentally get something right, I'll just be accused of cheating, even though I didn't read the books. So anyway, look out for that. I think what we'll do is we'll get straight into the episode. Emmett, what did you think? Sort of before we get into it, what was your overall views of this one in terms of maybe even like quality-wise related to the last few episodes? Where does it stand for you so far in the season?
Oh, that's a good question. It's a very emotional episode. I'll say that right from the start. There's a lot of very strong emotions from Adira going through her sort of journey, and then also from the crew. So I enjoyed it. It felt a bit more personal and focused than maybe some of the other episodes in the season so far. So I did enjoy it. You know, I think it was, you know, a good character study for a number of the crew. You know.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. I think at this point in the series, it felt like a little bit of a slow down episode for half of the cast, and it felt like a little bit of like sort of exploring this new character in the other half of the episode too. It really reminded me a bit of like sort of old fashioned TV. Like a lot of the TV I watch these days is 100% made for streaming service.
Yes.
And it's like, you know, and it is like 8 episodes a season, and it's kind of like a long form film. Whereas Star Trek Discovery sort of feels like a throwback to TV from 15 years ago still, back whenever you would have a self-contained little story within the one episode, even though there is
an overarching plot.
There's an overarching plot, but you still, you know, you take an episode and, you know, you talk about the mental health of the crew. You know?
Yeah, I will talk about this more, but I absolutely loved the fact that we were touching upon the mental health of the crew. I'm big into exploring mental health within the context of fiction, which is great. But Discovery definitely follows the sort of classic Trek trend of having an A plot and a B plot. Where, like, you know, Adira was the A plot where, you know, we're getting stuff that's involved with the overarching narrative, and then the B plot was Saru's sort of like, how do I help the crew story, you know, coming into his own more as a captain and trying to find that, you know, how he can help his crew who are suffering. And, you know, it's very good. I will say that, like, obviously Discovery, I think, has, you know, less episodes than a typical Star Trek show will have. So we have a lot less like filler episodes. So like every episode has to move the plot forward a little bit, you know. So like things are always still moving, and you know, obviously filler is, you know, usually quite frustrating. But like I enjoy that we're still taking the time to explore the characters' emotions instead of just being all moving forward with the plot, you know.
Yeah, and that's actually something that I noticed when watching it myself, is that if I was watching a TV show, as I say, like it did feel a little bit like the TV of back in the day, but at the same time, as you say, it wasn't, because if I was watching like Smallville or whatever back in 2005, you would
Blast from the past.
Yeah, Blast from the past. Like that was my thing when I was 14 years old. But basically, when I was watching Smallville, you'd get a little bit of tidbit, like maybe the new character Adira in Star Trek would show up, but then she would just be in the background part of the crew for like 4 episodes. Yeah. And then we would get the next part of her story. I kind of like the idea. It might be a bit jarring for some people who are used to the old style of Star Trek, but I like the idea of just blasting through the plot. Because I don't really feel like we're actually losing too much of like the world and immersion and like getting to know the characters I don't think we're
Yeah.
really losing anything.
It feels like Star Trek, but like condensed to a certain extent. It's
Yeah,
like streamlined. It's like we don't have time necessarily to do all the filler episodes, so we'll try and make the most of the time that we do have. And you sort of get that in the sense of like the crew is a little smaller in the sense of you don't have as many main characters as you might have in other Star Trek shows. But like
yeah,
that's to fit the format, and that's to fit the amount of episodes that they have. It's adapting to what you have rather than trying to follow the same principles that you were beforehand and not being able to do it just because you don't have the time.
yeah. Exactly. You can't fit everything in. So it's better to have a cast of maybe less than 10 main characters, so you can actually flesh them out. And we talked about as well that the certain characters are only getting really fleshed out a bit more now. Like Lieutenant Detmer, for example. Like in this episode, she's coming into the fore.
I,
This seems,
I called it.
yeah, this seems to be the Detmer series in terms of her coming out of her shell as a character, which I really love, and we'll talk about that a bit more later. But let's get into the episode now.
Sure.
So the first part of the episode is sort of like a mission log or a sort of diary entry from
Stardate.
Dr. Kolber.
Mhm.
And it's sort of setting up it's setting up the idea of the mental health of the crew. That's what I took from it. It's setting up that the crew sort of isn't really melding as well as they used to. They're all a bit sort of off. I don't know what you would say. They're all a bit off.
Shell shocked, I would say. Shell shocked. It's
Yeah,
like
shell
they've
shocked. Yeah,
they've been hit by this and they're all still recovering. It's that idea of like trauma where it's like it's not always obvious the scars that you have. Obviously Lieutenant Detmer has her obvious scars
yeah,
from the technology integrated, but like we really see in this episode the other scars that have maybe been under the surface for a long time. And it's not just her. Also, I just gotta say, Hugh's voice is so soothing when he's doing like
yeah,
I just want him to like tell me all the news all the time because then I wouldn't be stressed.
yeah. If he was telling us about the election, it would be great.
Yeah, yeah. We'd all be like, that's great, that's fantastic. That's what did he say?
Yeah, every morning, medical log. Pennsylvania has. But yeah, I agree with you. Like I thought it was great. I liked the idea of sort of this episode being narrated in a way by a different character. Like even the Adira main A plot storyline that was set on its way by Hugh as well. Like he actually sent Michael Burnham on the journey with her. What did you think about the like? To be honest with you, I don't know. I obviously I'm not a Star Trek as fan as you, and I haven't seen as much. I actually, whenever they were talking about the symbiote
Yeah.
within Adira, and like it's usually goes in a trill, but it's actually in a human now. I wasn't actually expecting when they showed like the X-ray and stuff. I wasn't expecting it to actually be a living organism inside her. I thought it was more of like a conscious thing.
Oh, yeah. So like, I was aware of like the fact that it is a weird looking squid thing. We've sort of seen little bits of it before, but like this was the most sort of like, we got those sort of like high def scans of what
Yeah,
the creature, because like generally in Trill Society they would be quite secretive of the process. We've seen in this episode, obviously it's
yeah,
an important part of their culture, so they don't necessarily like letting too many people know about how this works. So no, again, it was very. I loved just seeing the scans of it like insider because it's one of those ones where you always wonder how that sort of looks from a day-to-day perspective. It's like, oh, okay, so it's like coiled itself around her organs
like her spine and organs and
yeah,
things. Yeah,
yeah, in a protective way. Not in a
yeah,
because
exactly. Like yeah,
because
because they were
obviously it's a symbiote, a symbiote. It's they're supposed to be harmonized. It's not like one being stronger than the other. It's togetherness.
it's not a parasitic relationship. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's yeah. So that's interesting. I like the idea. Whenever it was in her, and they said it's around her heart, and then she straight away said, "Well, it's protecting me." I just love that idea as well. Yeah. So out of curiosity, the little things when we went to the actual planet, I'm skipping a little bit here, but when we went to the planet and there was like a little orange fish thing jumping around,
Yeah.
was that the same animal or was that different?
No,
Was
I,
that
th-
just
I think it was just a little bit of flair. A little
yeah,
bit of
that was just an extra little thing.
Yeah,
obviously we don't.
just
Yeah.
they have a CGI budget. They're going to use it in the
Yeah.
episode. It's like, oh, we have a little floating fish. It's an
Yeah. Yeah.
alien flying fish.
Yeah. Which actually, it wasn't too bad to
It,
be honest
it,
with
it
you.
was cute. I liked it. I was like, that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always
I
like
thought it
that.
was. Yeah, I thought it was quite nice. So what did you like? So Michael Burnham gets sent with Adira. To be honest with you, I felt like this was a little. I personally, I felt it was a little bit like, all right, we want the main character to go with us, so let's come
So
up with a reason.
So yeah, I understand, but I think also understand from like a character standpoint why it makes sense for Adira and Michael to sort of connect
Bond.
in a way. Yeah, because they're both humans that were raised or influenced by another alien culture.
Oh yeah,
Michael
that's great.
with
Yeah.
the Vulcans, and now Adira with the Trill. So
Yeah.
they're humans that have been touched by aliens in a certain way.
Mm.
And as at the moment, obviously, they both, not to make a pun, feel a certain level of alienation from both themselves and the people around them. So I think I think Hugh was maybe doing that from not just only a helping Adira standpoint. I think he was also trying to do it from a helping Michael standpoint too, because like
Yeah.
he understood that like Michael maybe needs more anchoring, and maybe seeing a younger person who's less mature, who's going through similar struggles that she can help. Because he oh, what did he call her? A responsibility hoarder
Yeah.
at the start.
That was see when they said that, I was like, ding, that's what I am. Honestly, like I am a responsibility hoarder. Like even in every aspect of my life. Some might call it a control freak. It's not. There is a fine line, I think, between
Yeah,
a responsibility hoarder and a control freak. I feel, I don't know why, I just feel like even in my work, like I would take everything on. I would do all my
yeah,
photocopying. I'm a teacher. My viewers should know that. They already know that. But if you're new to the channel, I'm a teacher. So I have a real particular eye for detail, and I sort of do everything myself. It could come across as a control freak. It's
yeah,
not really though, because I'm not afraid to actually let people do the stuff. It's just that if I can do it, I want to do it. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And
Okay.
I sort of feel like that responsibility hoarder was really spoke to me at a deep level. If I'm
Yeah,
honest with you.
it hit you in the hit you right in the. It's like I'm being targeted by this.
Yeah, it's like the first time you hear about the what do you call it, the imposter syndrome. Like
Oh
the
God, yeah.
first time every single person hears about imposter syndrome, you're just like, that's me,
Yeah, 100%. Oh God, imposter syndrome is the worst. And I think
Well,
maybe
I'm feeling imposter syndrome right now because of my quick rise to 2,000 subscribers on YouTube.
uh,
I'm full of imposter syndrome right now.
well, again, let me be the person to tell you that don't let that get to you. You're 100% worthy of love and attention from 2,000 people. We're all worthy of love and attention.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
I think also, again, to tie it back into the episode, Adira definitely was feeling a lot of imposter syndrome herself, in the sense of like, because she has this trill within it, but that she just can't communicate with, and thus
mm,
can't access it. There was that beautiful moment where they land on the planet, and again, because they're minor characters that we're probably not going to see again. I'm not going to be able to remember their names, so I'm just going to refer to them by the color of clothing that they were wearing. And
okay,
the red robed fellow was like, "Tell us your names." And it's like, no, no, tell us all of your names. And she couldn't like do it and was getting all emotional. And it's just like, oh, that like sort of disconnect between her and the symbiote. It was just,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
so rough.
I
God.
like I really liked the I really liked the design of the trill. Is the design
Yeah,
of the trill?
that's
Is that something
that.
that is always the way it is? The sort of the
Yeah,
birthmarks, I suppose.
yeah. It's a consistent thing from check that like the humanoid part of the trill symbiote combination. They'll have like little sort of pattern going down like this. It was one of those things because obviously they were introduced in Next Generation and then featured heavily in Deep Space Nine, and not everyone is a champion like Doug Jones and willing to go through several hours of prosthesis to like play a character.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like obviously with like the Trill and the Vulcans, they they try and simplify the changes so that it's easy to sort of do. So like, not to
yeah.
say that it doesn't take a while to get all that stuff done, but it definitely takes more to get whatever Doug Jones is wearing on his face on.
Yeah, like
So
and even you can see in the design of Doug Jones, his mask. It's
yeah,
very much designed to go over a human head quickly.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously they probably have to put some glue and stuff on him to make sure it sticks to him and it sees his emotions and things.
Yeah.
But even the design of it, like his nose is very clearly there, but they've designed it in such a way that it kind of doesn't look like it is,
Yeah.
you know. So I really like that, to be honest with you. I like, it makes sense, especially when you're talking about characters who were basically designed back in the 90s, you know, early 90s. Whenever you're doing like 25 episodes a season, you can't really have your actor sitting in the chair for 4 or 5 hours. Sometimes even, like, I think even back in early prosthetic days, you were talking 10 hours in a chair before they started filming, you know?
Unless you're Michael Dorn or what's Data's actors called? But they, obviously he was
Oh,
like,
the gold. Yeah, the
yeah,
gold.
he played the goal, and Worf obviously had the full sort of Klingon ridges.
Yeah.
And it's funny sometimes how they'll just be in the background of a scene and not doing anything, but you think to yourself like he had to be like in the chair for several hours, and he doesn't have a line here, like he doesn't.
They must, in my mind, every scene they're in the background of, they must also schedule that for a day where they have a
Yeah,
proper scene.
they have to, absolutely have to. They must like bang that out with a load of other stuff. I just love the idea of like, we need to do a pickup shot of like Worf, and he doesn't have any lines. He's just in the background. So you need to spend Michael Dorn needs to spend another few hours in the chair, do 10 minutes of work, and then get it all taken off again.
Yeah, and it's like 3 months after they've already shot it or whatever, like a month after they've shot it, and they're like, right, we need a pickup shot here. Let's do a reshoot. Although
Yeah.
I'm not sure if too much. Completely off topic, actually.
Yeah.
I was watching Seinfeld the other day, and
Okay.
off topic, right? But talk about pickup shots and things, right? There's a scene where they're in a car. It's George and his future wife Susan,
Mhm.
and they've got a wide shot of the two of them. They've got a tight shot on George,
Mhm.
but they forgot to get the tight shot on Susan.
Oh, that's
So
how
because they wanted to still do the storyboard,
Yeah.
they actually zoomed in the wide shot, and the quality of it is just ridiculously bad.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I've noticed that, but it's just like they didn't let their storyboard die, even though by the time they got to the editing suite, they realized they didn't get that shot. You
Yeah.
know?
It's always awkward when you can speaking from the perspective of someone who did student films and stuff like that, which no matter how good you are, student films are always a little terrible on some level.
It's the budget stuff, you know, and
Yeah, it's the
it's the
budget
lack
stuff.
of time to fine tune like grading and editing and all that.
And then, like obviously with with your early productions, like a lot of people have issues with audio and stuff like that. So like
Of course.
they use a lot of like the obvious tricks to get around the fact that they don't have the audio by like only using the audio when like you don't see the person's face when it's looking
Yeah, yeah.
at the character and so that. It's just like those little like hiccups in production always like get a little sort of a laugh out of me. Not because I'm laughing at them, but just being like I 100% know how that happened, where it was like someone accidentally checked that off as, oh, yeah, we've got that. And then they moved on, and then they're like, oh, God damn it, we lost the footage, or,
Yeah.
Oh.
It's great. All right, so Emmett, what did you think of we talked a little bit about it already, but we can get into more of the mental health stuff here, because this is when Saru is sort of talking to his Alexa, I suppose, and he's going through getting sort of advice on how to help out the crew, and it recommends, which we'll come back to later, watching Buster Keaton.
Well, personally, I can think of a few other things better than watching a bit of Buster Keaton. That man was insane,
Yeah.
absolutely insane, and a lot of the stuff still holds up today to a certain a comedic factor. And the man was
Is Buster Keaton the guy who legitimately did the trains, the train jump? Like
yeah
there was a thing where he was like, maybe I think it was Buster Keaton,
yeah
where
it
he was on a train and he was
and
like
the board the big logs, and he had to like jump off and like move them and stuff like that.
move the log off the tracks before the
Yeah,
train got to it. It was
yeah.
absolutely crazy what he was doing.
He also did everyone's sort of seen it
The
already.
house falling.
The house falling. Fun fact about this, in case anyone in the audience doesn't know, if you slow down that footage and watch one of his shoulders, it moves because he got hit by the house as it was coming down on the shoulder, and I think it broke his arm. But again,
Oh, jeez.
the man being the absolute legend that he is, didn't flinch, didn't move, just kept standing there and like did the scene. So like, fair play to him. The man did a lot of stuff that people today would not even consider doing.
Yeah, so it was a great callback. But I did find myself like, I was like, why whenever like these space, sci-fi shows call back to sort of our current human entertainment, they always go back to like Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton. They might even go to Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah.
Why don't they ever sit and watch Anchorman? You know why? Why don't they sit?
That
Why
would
don't
be,
they sit and watch Superbad?
oh, that'd be amusing. Just like, Anchorman on in the background, like the newsman fight. It's like,
Yeah,
where did you get a trident? I don't know. It's,
yeah.
that would be. I think from
Someone
like
should edit that together with them. Like that could be like a new meme where they're just watching random comedies, like really
oh
R-rated comedies.
yeah, that would be good. I think the reason that they pick things like Buster Keaton and the like is because that's already that already feels old to us. So
Yeah,
like it helps invoke the fact,
it's
it gets
reminiscent.
yeah,
Yeah,
it helps us sort of. Whereas if they were to put on, what's a sitcom that's out at the moment, like the Goldbergs or something,
yeah,
we would be like, what? Why are we just watching an episode of the Goldbergs? Also, it might have to do with licensing and
licensing.
yeah, as well, just because again I'm not sure who holds the rights to footage with Buster Keaton and the like, but it might just be easier to get that stuff than it is to get like a modern. I thought, yeah, obviously, when she's suggesting, watching, Buster Keaton and they're all watching it at the end and laughing like mad people, it was a bit strange, but I did appreciate that Singularity, as it seems to be,
Yeah,
is attempting to figure out ways. I thought that was I was surprised because I think I understood that the singularity was going to have to come back into the story at some point. I just wasn't expecting it to be like in the B plot of like this episode talking about mental health about the crew, that like
yeah.
the computer's sentience would start to come through and be like, I can help you, Saru. I can help you figure out how to make people feel better.
Yeah,
I'm like,
and they had a good old blowout as
yeah.
well around the dinner table. But
Oh, that scene was great.
yeah, we'll get that in a minute. I just wanted to touch upon the idea first of all that Michael Burnham really broke Federation protocol basically whenever they were denied access to the cave, which would hopefully sort of like a hot spring cave kind of thing
Yeah,
with little pools in it, and they were denied access to that, but that would have helped Adira access to memories from the symbiote.
yeah.
They were denied that, so then they went to find it themselves, and Michael Burnham just killed a few guys.
Well, I don't again.
Well,
I mean,
they were attacking. They were gonna
yeah.
attack her.
Well, I think the situation was that they were being led back to their ship, and then Yellow Robe and his followers were like,
Oh,
"We want
okay.
the symbiote within you," like because he was supposed to lead them back to the ship, and they were basically attempting to assassinate Adira to get the trill within her out, so that it could be
Hmm.
given to a suitable, in quotation marks, host. And then Michael did murk those guys pretty good.
Yeah, that
To
was
be
good.
fair, yeah, that was a lot of fun. I think because we do see Yellow Robe at the end, so I think she just stunned them.
Yeah, like she said, they'll wake up soon. Like
Yeah,
she did, and it was. I think when you stun, isn't it like the yellowy beam? It was
yeah,
definitely a stun attack.
yeah. I think it was definitely stun, and it was very funny because I loved their weird sort of like high tech glowing lances, but I did just love Michael pulling a gun and
Yeah,
just like very Indiana Jones esque,
yeah.
just gunning them down with the black. It's like, don't bring a weird glowing lance to a phaser fight. That's not going to work out for you, mate. And yeah,
Yeah, and
she,
I always like whenever Star Trek sort of alludes to lightsabers in a little way, even though that
yeah,
wasn't really a lightsaber. I kind of like, yes, finally, like this is a cool
yes.
weapon.
Yeah,
But
no
yeah,
matter what fandom you're in, everything can be made cooler by the addition of a lightsaber for no reason.
yeah,
You know?
exactly. I will say as well about Michael in this episode, especially like earlier on in the scene whenever Adira and her are walking through the discovery through the passage, what do you call them, the corridors.
Yeah,
I the way Michael's holding herself now, and the way she's walking and sort of very deliberate like movements, like
yeah,
she's really cool. Like
yeah.
I just think that
It's
she's really changed as a character from the last season based on her time in the future now. And it's just like sort of she's like she just rolls with the punches now.
yeah.
She's just cool. She's just cool to me now.
Yeah, she's got like a cool older sister vibe, especially to
Yeah.
Adira this episode. But it is very funny you say that because obviously in early seasons she sort of had the Vulcan walk,
Mm.
going on where like she would have like the hands behind her back and sort of walking forward, because again she was sort of raised with the Vulcans, and now
And that's
obviously
probably why I noticed such a difference. Yeah.
yeah, like because now she's like full on like, hey, how's things going? I'm going with the flow. I'm
Yeah.
Michael
Yeah.
Burnham,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
I
It's great.
again and like I enjoyed the because obviously when they're walking they have a wee bit of banter, but I enjoyed the fact that like I think Michael sees a bit of herself in Adira in the sense of like a very smart young girl who maybe has a wee bit of a chip on her shoulder, and I think she's endeared by that and wants to help Adira. And
Yeah.
like I think I could see that coming through in their scenes where like they were sort of bonding, and Adira was being like that teenager being like, just don't say any speeches, those make me like uncomfortable. And then like it was a lot of very cute moments. Adira is very quickly in Adira is very quickly endearing herself to me, at
Yeah.
least.
Oh, lovely. I love that. She's
Yeah,
endearing herself to you.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's great. So we can talk about the meal now. The family Thanksgiving dinner.
I think we've all been at a dinner like this. Maybe not with family, but we've all been at a dinner where like a fight's nearly about to break out for some reason.
Oh
It's
no, I have two brothers. We definitely had fights breaking out at dinner a lot growing up.
see again. I have the two sisters, so there was no physical fights. Though they probably would have been able to kick the absolute shit out of me if they wanted to. But I've definitely been at some awkward dinners where I've been like a guest, and I'm like, I don't want to get involved in any of this. you know?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So
Yeah.
basically, Detmer is trying to do a haiku, and she
Yeah.
can't quite get it, but it's all about Stamets' blood. And
Yeah.
I love the introduction of this sort of her thinking and like the animus she has towards Stamets for she's the pilot of the ship, but Stamets gets all of the credit for like moving the Discovery through the spore drive. I thought that was such a realistic
Yeah.
a gripe that she has,
Yeah, the issues with Stamment and Detmer's like their animosity, it's sort of not necessarily been building, but you can see where it's been coming from, because obviously she very much seems to have the PTSD about the crash and has deep survivor's guilt over the fact that we
Yeah.
lost a few people, and she feels frustrated with the fact that like Stamment is able to, as she says, swoop in like a superhero and save the day, whereas like she has to be there day in, day out, moving the ship. And, it's her decisions as a pilot that
Yeah.
ultimately can dictate whether people live or die. And I think it was partly frustration at Stammet, but also deep frustration with her. I feel like, a lot of it was coming from the fact that she feels that, it's that sort of inferiority, superiority complex thing where it's like she feels like weak, and because people, passed away and died on the crash, and like she's lashing out at him. And very much in the same way, because obviously Saru suggested that we need to find other ways of activating the spore drive other than just yourself, and that
Yeah.
obviously that threatened his sense of self. So then he's lashing out at her. So like they're both characters were just at low points, and put together, they just sort of naturally started like lashing out at each other.
Yeah.
I will say that one funny thing is, when, because obviously, the dinner is spoiled by talking about Stammen's blood, and then the argument, as a dinner would be.
Yeah.
Um, it's very difficult to recover from that. You can't really do icebreakers to recover. I did like when Stammet was storming out, and Hugh got up and was just like, so,
Yeah.
like he's just giving Saria like, sorry, my husband's a dickhead. Look,
Yeah.
and follows him out. And it
Yeah, but
was
also I think there was also a little look of it as if like, get control of your pilot, a little bit
yeah,
of that, a little bit of that there too,
yeah.
maybe.
Well, of course, Hugh will always, he'll, Stamment is the love of his life, so he'll always defend, Paul to the best of his ability,
The love of his two lives.
Yes, oh God. To be fair, I enjoy the fact that like obviously he had a rough time in season 2 with the whole coming back from the dead, but now he's kind of, that's a weird sentence to have to say.
Yeah.
He had a bad time coming back from the dead. But he's now stabilized and is feeling much better. So because he's been in tune with his own trauma, he's much more receptive of other people's, and
Yes.
that's why he's been sort of pushing for that we need to do something about people's mental health, or people are going to crack.
Yeah. It makes
Yeah.
so much sense, doesn't it? It makes so much
God,
sense.
yeah.
The actress who plays Detmer, Emily Coots. It's interesting that I haven't really seen her in anything else, and I think this is sort of her biggest role to date. But I have to say, if this season is going the way I think it is, this could be the breakout performance for her in this season, because I've been impressed with her so far, and
She's just got this look like a lost, hurt puppy, like the entire season. Just sometimes they'll hold a shot on her, and you just see her eyes, and you're just like, I want to hug her. Like
yeah,
I want to let her know things will be okay. You know, it's just it's so rough. You know.
yeah, no, it's great. Okay, so what did you think of the sort of Adira going into the tank? It's like sort of like a
Minority
capital
Report.
tank. Yeah, Minority Report tank.
Yeah,
And then she gets like sucked down,
yeah,
and then Michael follows her down
yeah,
in there. And it's funny that like they said that had never happened before. Like she was like shaking and then got sucked
yeah.
down, and they were like, "Oh, we've never seen this happen before." And then as soon as she went down, they were like, "You go too." It's like we know now how you can follow her. So
Yeah,
they went down too. And
yeah.
when they got down there, they actually she started to commune with the memories of the symbiote, and eventually all of the different characters or people who were in the symbiote come out, and we learn a lot of backstory about Adira, about her boyfriend Gray. And I just want to say before we start, the actor who plays Gray is called Ian Alexander, and I absolutely love this actor. In my opinion, he's a big part of the OA and why the OA is so good. So have you seen the OA?
I've not seen the way. I did love him in this episode, though. He's very charismatic, to be fair, and
Yeah. So
he's
yeah.
got a very cheeky charm to him, which I quite like. You know.
Yeah. So like I noticed that too. But yeah, in the OA, he's got a big role in the OA, and I was really pleased to see him in this, because I haven't seen him in anything else, and the fact that we finally got him back in another show, and it's a show that I was already watching. Like if I had seen him coming out in a different show, I would have went and watched it, because I don't know. Yeah, there's like in the OA he was a little younger. He probably was about 15 when they made that, and I can see him growing up now and sort of become more of an adult. I just really like this actor, and I hope that I was glad at the very end of this episode when he sort of came back, and he's going to be kind of recurring now, so it's going to be
Like
great. What did
a
what did you
ghost.
think
Yeah.
about that? What did you think about that background of Adira?
So yeah, obviously it's like when we started seeing these memories, we understood from the very beginning that this was going to be tragic in some way. So like
Mm.
all these lovely memories that she was having with Gray always had that tinge of bittersweetness, because you were like, something has to happen to him. He has the symbiote, and like it has to move to her. So it has to. This doesn't end well. You know that on some level, and
Yeah,
it's terrible because they're like young and in love, and they've got their whole lives ahead of them, and they're on this. They've got each other in this big generation ship, and it's so tragic, and
yeah,
then the fact that like it sort of becomes clear that the reason that Adira hasn't been able to connect with the symbiote as much is because she's like repressed these traumatic memories about Gray's death. And it's like he said, it's like you have to accept the symbiote and it has to accept you. So obviously she hasn't been able to really accept it because she's buried her memories. And anytime she would have maybe tried to, it would have been like brushing against her trauma again,
yeah,
fitting into the theme of the episode a lot, and she was pushing it away instead of facing it. Whereas, eventually with Michael's sort of counsel, she was able to sort of like sit down and almost sort of like, unfortunately, relive probably the worst day of her life, but be able to take something positive from it in the end, in the sense of a part of Gray gets to be with her now forever. And
yeah,
I will admit I got a bit when they do come out, and then Mr. Red Robe comes back and it's like, tell us your names. And she started going through. I legitimately got a little emotional when she was going through them. I am X tall,
that
and
was
like,
great.
oh,
That moment was
so,
I didn't know, like, even as I was forming the ideas, like, oh, Tal is the name of the thing, and the symbiote, and it was all forming in my mind, but that moment still hit me really hard. Like, I thought that was really well executed.
it was a beautiful scene. I like, obviously, because we've met the trouble before, I understood that it's like the host name and then the symbiote's name is like the second part. So like having her be able to name them all, get to Grey Tall, and then be like, and I am a Deer Tall, and I was like, oh my Oh, it
Yeah.
hit me right in my emotion. This was a very emotional episode. There was a lot of like really powerful stuff going on, and oh God, it was a roller coaster again.
Yeah, exactly. And the reaction of the Trill themselves
Oh,
to her, and then they immediately accepted her. And then they wanted her to stay, but she said, "I'll stay with the Discovery."
yeah.
I got a question to ask you. What do you think about the idea? Like, and do you think we're going to get more? Or is it doesn't need to be explained? Or what do you think about the idea that she is the first human to commune with a symbiote? Is it just that they've never tried it before, or is it that
Also,
they?
so my
Yeah.
understanding, we have had it happen once or twice in episodes, but not for a prolonged period.
Okay.
It's been a situation where like it's been moved into. I think it was Riker, Commander Riker. He got it put in him for a bit, and
Or to keep it alive, sort of thing.
yeah, and like again, I'm probably misremembering, but like it has been in human hosts before, but not for a prolonged period. Whereas Adira seems to be now bonded for with it for life,
Yeah.
until the end of her life. So it's interesting because obviously, again, Trill culture is so focused on this idea of the symbiotes being passed between people and being this sort of cultural thing. So, like the woman in the white robe said, what they did here today is going to have massive ramifications for Trill culture for centuries to come.
Yeah.
This is completely changed the game from that front, and like it's probably because they there was obviously, or we see from the yellow robed chap, there is a sort of religious extremism
Mm.
to this Trill situation. So again, hopefully that will help break down those barriers, and
Yeah.
yeah, and I completely understood. I was expecting them to maybe make a reference because it's like the being like the Trill are needed here, and then like but I was expecting them to reference the fact that like the Admiral was a member of Starfleet as well. So like as much as they are Trill, they are Starfleet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, because a Senatal was actually Starfleet, and actually Senatal was the character who they were looking for. So I'm really interested to see that now. So I'd imagine next episode they're
yeah,
going to go and find the Federation base,
yeah.
or at least head to it anyway.
They might
Yeah,
run it along the way.
yeah, they'll run into trouble along the way, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But then we had the Buster Keaton scene, as we said. They're all happy. Great ending to the episode. I think there was also the mention, as you said, of the what was the name of it, of the information,
The
the
Singularity.
the singularity. Yeah, we had that. So I'm sure that'll come into a bigger way into the main storyline. But it was
Yeah.
nice, sort of, just to be reminded of it. Maybe they're sort of reminding it it's there because it is going to play a big part of this season.
Well, it was the reason that they obviously came to the future was to protect the singularity, the data within this, and keep or not the singularity, the ship, whatever the data sphere or whatever it was called that merged with Discovery to keep that information
Mm.
safe from the singularity. I think it is the
Oh,
singularity is
okay.
the evil one. I'm getting mixed up on the names of stuff. There's the evil computer and the good computer. We're trying to save the good computer, so I think they're bringing it back in because, yeah, as you said, it's going to play a bigger part, and we couldn't not have it play a big part because again, it was the whole reason for this trip to the future, this trip into this post Federation world,
Yeah.
and my assumption is it's it and the singularity or whatever else is out there will have some sort of connection to the burn.
Mm.
It's not these plot threads are eventually going to coalesce together, I
Yeah.
believe. So, it's all going somewhere, I feel like they know where they're going at this stage.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so that was the episode. Emma, what are your overall thoughts? Good episode, bad episode, middling episode? What do you think?
A good episode, a lot of good, strong character moments. A little bit of a bottle episode in the sense of like we spend most of the time on the ship, but we do have a little bit of a foray out. But I
Yeah.
enjoyed that, and I'm glad that Star Trek was exploring these ideas of like trauma, and because the thing with Discovery is before Discovery, they have definitely tried to have more adult oriented Star Trek shows or ones that try to tackle difficult themes to varying degrees of success. Deep Space Nine is a great exploration of the Federation at war. Voyager really wanted to do this concept called the Year of Hell, but like the producers wouldn't let them do it for whatever
Mm.
reasons. And then Enterprise, another prequel, they wanted to like make it more adult, but like that sort of just ended up being a lot of like gratuitous, almost nudity and stuff like that. I feel like
Yeah.
Discovery has maybe found its niche as being or better, at least as a more matured version of certain concepts from Star Trek. So exploring these ideas of trauma and exploring people's interpersonal relationships more in more complicated ways. So I appreciate that so much. And if Discovery wants to keep exploring these threads, I'm entirely, let's see Kayla go through a full recovery. That would be a great arc to see. Her starting therapy and then eventually overcoming her issues. That would be a wonderful journey to follow. And I think we have a lot of interesting places to go.
Yeah, and the precedent has been set in previous seasons as well of like sort of Hugh in the last season. There always seems to be a character who they choose to sort of really focus in on their mental health, really focus in on sort of them overcoming something traumatic. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing Kayla's journey through this. I really want to see a little bit more from Saru in the next episode. I'd love to see Saru being part of like the party that goes down to a planet next episode. I know we had it like sort of the Western second episode where he went into like the saloon and all. But I want to see it again. I want to see Saru getting back into the action soon enough.
You want to see that man get involved. I did like what he was doing this episode because it was because obviously he's still so new to the captaincy. He's still finding his footing. So like this was a very sort of this is a problem that like I imagine a lot of captains have probably faced in their life: the crew morale and how to fix it. And watching Saru struggle, but then sort of do his best was great. Again, Saru again still remains my like favorite character in the show. So anytime he's on screen, I'm happy.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think Michael Burnham is probably becoming my favorite character. I don't really know if I had a favorite character before this season, but I love the change she's going through. I love how cool she is now. The hair does a lot for that, and I just think
I love her hair. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. So. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with just watching the show and thinking this is cool.
Yeah.
So that's how
Very
I feel.
cool.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to next week's episode. Hopefully we'll find the Federation. If not, we'll see what happens. Thanks very much, Emmett. Thanks for joining me. Make sure, guys, you are subscribing to the channel every single week. Emmett and I are here. As I said at the start, we are doing Star Trek Discovery. Also, I do Mandalorian every week. I've got a load of other stuff on the channel too. So go and have a check. If you go onto my channel and look at the banner, I've got my whole schedule for the week up there. Any closing thoughts this week, Emmett?
More of a community related thing. If there's any, obviously because we're doing these sci-fi Saturdays, if there's any other sci-fi shows that you would be maybe interested in maybe having a wee look at, let us know. Obviously, Discovery only has a few more episodes really before the end of the season, and we want to keep this sci-fi Saturday rolling. So suggestions in the comments entirely welcomed and wanted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so let us know if there's a TV show or even there's a film you want us to cover. We're up for just doing whatever in terms of sci-fi. That's the Sci-Fi Saturday. Like, there's no reason we could also record a video that would go up some other day in the week, which would be something that wasn't sci-fi. But Fantasy Friday, for example. But
like that.
But yeah, I like that idea. But Sci-Fi Saturday is definitely something we want to keep going. Emmett and I are big sci-fi fans. We love chatting to each other. As we say, we're longtime friends. Doing this has sort of brought us back together. So we'd love to keep. We're not going to stop. So even if you don't want us to keep talking, you're going to have to listen to us, guys. I'm sorry.
We'll talk into the void even if no one's listening. We're like Discovery. We're sending messages. Out.
We're sending messages. There's no all the warp drives aren't working, but eventually the message will get there.
Exactly.
All right, guys. Thanks very much. Make sure you subscribe. Like the video. I haven't said that actually yet. I try to avoid saying that, Emmett, actually, because that's a real meme on YouTube. Like the video.
Like and subscribe. Smash that like button. Hit subscribe. Hit the bell.
Yeah. So I've really tried to avoid that. But now I've got 2,000 subscribers now. I'm like, I kind of probably should ask them to like the video, But yeah, like the video. Thanks very much, guys. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye. You're watching Sci-Fi Saturday. Discussion and analysis of all your favorite sci-fi TV shows. Only on the Anthony James YouTube channel.